What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out how to enjoy a British pub. Honestly, I'm not really 100% certain what qualifies something as a pub versus a bar. Now, I think I have some general ideas of what the differences may be. For example, I think you're more likely to find food being served in a pub versus a bar. But is that a qualifier to actually be a pub if it serves food? Because here in the US, some bars serve food, you know? So
bar and grill.
Yeah, right. Or is it something to do with maybe pool tables or dart boards? You know, what really makes up a pub versus a bar? Yeah. Growing up, my dad on what was called a bar. It was called The Corner. That was the name of the bar. I grew up working in it for quite some time. But when I look back at it, I think you guys would probably consider it a pub, because when I look at what it was, is we served a vast array of food there. And it obviously had all your normal alcohol choices, from liquors to beer on tap. And you also had like pub games, what I would consider probably pub games, where we had these massive TVs where you'd get on and you'd like play these trivia games and stuff like that.
Like pub quizzes.
I think that would be considered, although that's not what we called it, you know. And also had pool table, dartboard, but we always called it a bar. So is there a difference there, or are bars and pubs basically the same thing? We do know that pub basically stands for public house or public meeting house, where people are, especially from a community, kind of, they congregate together at this place that's called a pub.
Yeah. And
I also realize in the UK, it's normal, at least for some pubs, to bring kids in and they eat there and whatnot.
Were kids allowed at the bar your dad ran?
Well, I was, because I worked there at like, 11 or 12 years old, but
probably wasn't legal.
I was doing bar back at like, 12 years old, bringing ice, bringing the beer and stuff from the coolers and everything like that.
Nowadays, could you imagine?
No.
People would report that so quick.
I don't really recall like kids showing up there, so I don't think it was a normal thing. But, it does make me wonder, what are the true differences between a bar and a pub? Or are they the same thing in the UK?
I always thought bar was like an American term, so I don't know.
It might be. Maybe and maybe they're both the same thing in the UK.
Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. Do you hear that rain? Oh my goodness.
It is pouring.
It is pouring.
Sounds like it's about to flood.
Yeah. All right, guys, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and check out how to enjoy a British pub.
How do British pubs work? Do you order at the table? Are you expected to tip? And when is closing time?
Hi, I'm Ali Ross, the landlady at the Coach and Horses here.
The landlady.
And I will be here to help you understand what a British pub is all about.
Okay,
I like
landlady.
that name, by the way, Coach and Horses.
Yeah, that is a cool name. So, okay, she's a landlady. Here that would basically mean she owns the building, right?
Right.
So,
and you rent it out.
Right. Actually, I don't. If there is a woman that owns a building or house, do we actually call them a landlady, or do we still call them a landlord?
I mean, here most people probably say landlord.
I've never heard that term before.
Probably landlady.
Right. I just don't know if that term is ever used here. I've never heard it before.
Usually it's like landlord.
But so it sounds like her version of what she called a landlady sounds like the manager or something.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Maybe owner? I don't know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. What does she exactly mean by landlady? Is that an owner of the bar itself, an owner of the building itself, which I think is more than that because she's working there, so obviously it's something to do with the pub itself.
The Coach and Horses is located in the Soho district in central London. Many of its patrons stop by in the afternoon, right after work, mainly on Thursdays or Fridays.
There's a sense of a community in a British pub.
It's a social thing where people can interact and let the hair down, relax.
It's like an extended family.
It's for quite a British thing. Any opportunity you can do, you go to the pub.
So what should foreign visitors know before they go?
We often get a lot of people from typically Europe come in and either ask for a free table or sit down at a table and wait to be served. And this is not typical in England. Typically, people go straight to the bar and order, and then go to a table.
But what to order? The different kinds.
I feel like that's the same here, right? If you're going to a straight up bar, like you go up to the bar to order and then go sit down.
Usually you're not going to go sit down.
Unless it's a restaurant, like a bar and grill type place.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I can't imagine you're just going to go sit down at a table and then.
Not most places, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go to bars, and I haven't in a long time.
But did you notice something that you really don't see around these parts is
out in the street?
Out in the streets, just drinking glasses of beer.
I was wondering if that was just for this video or if that's typical for a pub, like to have just people spilled out into the streets drinking their pint.
Now. You usually won't see anybody out drinking because a lot of areas have these ordinances where you can't. Like, it's actually illegal to drink on the streets in a lot of areas. Like an open container and whatnot. Now, that's not everywhere. Some places you can, obviously. But usually, I've never seen someone would actually, like a glass. If anything, it would be a bottle, right? A bottle or a can or something like that.
Taking the glasses from the pub.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Kinds of beer can be bewildering, as some aren't known abroad.
We'll
Guinness.
start off with London Pride.
Pride.
It's a real ale or a hand pull ale. They're naturally carbonated, unlike lagers where CO2 is put into the barrel. And they have a little bit of a biscuity, malty finish. Let's try a lager. If people want something that's cold and refreshing and they don't want too much flavour maybe, they don't want anything that's too hop forward, or they don't want a real ale that might be a little bit warmer, then go for a lager for sure. So here we have cider, a drink made from apples, the pressing and the
That's
yours.
That's me.
I'm lager.
Yeah, I would say if I was going with a beer, like a beer type product, a lager would probably be what I would prefer.
I thought the ale.
The cider?
I mean the cider, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like other.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah, I gotcha.
Drinking pints over ice, a lot of the time people like it really super cold. Something that's very popular at the moment is Guinness. It is from Dublin, of course. The flavour is
so dark,
quite mellow for a stout, and the texture is a little creamy, so it's actually quite pleasant on the palate.
Beer is always ordered by the pint. 1 pint is just over half a liter. How many do folks typically drink?
Somewhere between 6 and 10, probably.
A few, but not too many. There's no limits, I suppose. I can be a power drinker when I want to, or I can just have a couple, like today.
7 or 8 pints and go for dinner somewhere.
What?
Here are some
How would you
tips
room
when
to
ordering
eat?
at the bar.
Yeah, that seems like a lot.
7 to 8. So do you say 7 to 8 or 7 to 10?
7 to, I don't know, somebody said to 10. But
And
like,
then he goes and eats.
Yeah.
Like, how would you...
now, back in the day, you know, like you might
That
catch
to
me.
me, that's like binge drinking.
Well, back in the day, you might catch me drinking quite a bit like that from time to time. I've never been someone that was just drinking every day or something like that.
No,
Just never been a
neither.
thing for me. And, you know, these days I really don't drink that much at all. But there was a time I definitely drank much more than I do now. But, you know, 10 seems like
That seems
quite
like
a bit.
lot.
I don't
and
even.
I feel like that would get expensive.
I don't think I could hold all that. Like, that seems like a lot of fluid, man.
Also, what you were talking about, like, I think you said this before we started filming, but, like, one of the things that you had heard about pubs is that you buy around for everyone.
Something like, yeah, there's some, I don't even know where I've heard that or what that is. Like, it's like if you're buying a drink, you should buy a drink for everybody at least
Or maybe
once
it
or
means
something.
in your group. Like
That's,
maybe-
yeah, for
Okay,
your
I
group.
thought you meant the whole pub. I was like,
I don't think so. 'Cause
How would-
that seems like that would get quite expensive if you had to do that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know in the comments if they don't touch on that, guys. There's something about the etiquette of buying around for
I
everybody.
feel like that's in your group. So, like, if you're with a few friends.
So everybody buys around probably.
Yes,
I think that's
that
what it
makes
is.
sense.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
does make sense.
You definitely don't want people waving in your face. It can be quite rude, actually, especially the waving of a card or money or something. So, yeah, just wait patiently for your turn, and
Cue.
people are usually quite respectful of this in the pub.
And here's another tip.
You can't just go and buy a drink for yourself. If you're in a group of people, you offer to buy around.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that stays with you for a long time.
Oh,
You
yeah.
are remembered as the person who doesn't do that.
Yeah, and your name is cheap and it's bad.
Britain boasts around 45,000 pubs, many with a long and storied past.
45,000?
In London,
Hold up, 45,000 pubs. That's crazy. Okay, 45,000
yeah, that's
pubs.
a lot.
John Warland of Liquid History Tours shows visitors these pubs and explains their functions in
Ye
British
old
society.
Cheshire cheese.
Need for warmth, shelter, food, companionship as a meeting place is probably 2,000 years old in the format we know today. A lot of the pubs we visit are probably of the Victorian era when they probably hit their heyday, so that kind of stems from the mid-1800s.
Pub is short for public house, meaning a place that's open to everybody.
The best thing about a pub is it's welcome to everyone. Young, old, rich, poor. You could be the CEO of a finance bank, or you could be a guy who's been cleaning the streets. For anybody who can walk through the door, pay for the price of a humble pint of beer, you can share the same space.
Also typical for a British pub, many of the regulars live nearby and the atmosphere is informal. That's also reflected in the decor.
So typically in British pubs, you'll find a lot of wood and then a mixture of textures as well. So like here, we've got an Axminster carpet, and the carpet sort of adds elements and an extension of the home, somewhere that's made for comfort.
Very homey.
And yeah, just a little bit more sort of familiarity maybe that you might find from your home.
Something else to note, in pubs, you generally aren't expected to tip.
Well, I didn't expect that really, because tipping is really not a full-on normal thing anywhere in Britain, from what I understand. You know, even with waitstaff and whatnot, because they get paid a higher living wage than they do here in the States.
Right.
Our regular customers often buy the team drinks, but I think, you know, places like America, the tipping policy over there is completely different to how it is here.
Yeah,
so
very much
if
so.
we're offered a drink, then we'll just pop it on their bill, charge them accordingly, and just print the receipt and leave it for later. So we've got just a lot of receipts up there.
Anyone who comes to a pub should also know when it's time to go.
20 minutes to 11, we'll ring the bell for last orders and shout that out.
11?
It's to 11.
And then again at 11 o'clock to mark the final closure.
Last call.
We'll ring the bell again. Guests aren't particularly always happy to leave. Obviously, you want to continue the party, but typically they'll, you know, finish up their pints promptly and be on their way.
What's it like where you live?
That's really early.
That's very early.
Especially if it's on the weekend too. Like, is that the weekend too, you think?
I don't know.
Where do you go to socialize? And what do you drink while you're there?
All right.
Okay, well, I have to say, this seems very much like an extroverted thing.
You think?
For the most part. Like,
Well, I
don't know. To me, it makes me feel anxious thinking about.
See, I disagree. And I think what I see here is that what I think of as a typical bar is a very extroverted thing. But what I see here with a pub, you have little tables here that are like single or two-person tables.
Right.
And it seems like I saw a guy there sitting with a beer just reading a book.
Yeah, I like how casual it is. It's almost like a coffee shop kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, this doesn't seem so much like just for extroverted people. This seems like a well-rounded place for everybody.
When I say extroverted, I mean people with the type of, maybe this is more of a British thing than an American thing. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of people in America too, more extroverted, who after work every day go down and like hang out and talk a bunch. Like, that's just not me, really.
Right. After being around people all day, you want to be at home.
That's what I mean by extroverted.
Right.
Like,
to
need to seek that social thing daily or multiple times a week. Right. That's just not me, but a lot of people I think are like that.
Yeah, and I think this seems like a really great way to do that. It's a, you know, I can imagine, you know, your local pub, like they were talking about, you have the regulars and you
your
meet
neighbors,
friends there.
Yeah,
right?
Your neighbors.
You meet people there from your community you never even have met before. And then over time you grow friendship because you see each there every Friday or whatever.
Do you remember that show? It's an American show. It's called Cheers.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I let us know, guys, if you know Cheers, would that be considered a pub, even though I don't think here in America we call it a pub.
I was just thinking of the song, Where Everybody Knows Your Name.
I think something here that blew my... There's a few things that kind of stood out as like, okay, that's interesting. But something that really blew my mind was her saying that, 11 o'clock, ding, 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 ding. Finish your pints up, 11:30, we're out.
Yeah.
Like, That's crazy. That's like, maybe that is the difference between a pub and a bar. Maybe bars stay open later,
like
and
the late night crowd versus pub is more like.
And maybe the bars tend to get the more rowdy type. Maybe that's and pubs are a place you can bring in your kids. You can have a meal. You go and relax with friends and family and whatnot. And then bars are more for the like, want to be a little bit more
the wild night out,
a little bit wild night out type of thing.
Maybe, I don't know.
Let us know in the comments if that is a difference, or if there even is a difference. I really don't know. But I thought this was interesting. I definitely look forward to visiting a pub when we get over there.
Yeah, I'll have to get a cider.
Yeah, you guys will have to let us know for different areas when we actually do get over there, what are the best pubs to visit.
Yeah.
That'd be a really cool thing, though. Like if you had the time to do it, obviously it would take forever, but to actually go pub to pub to pub and visit all these different pubs, because
my goodness,
some are going to be
that would literally be its own thing.
It would, but can you imagine how old some of the pubs are?
That's the cool thing to me about the pub culture in the UK.
Yeah.
Is how much history there is to them. I can see why it's a continued tradition there, and maybe not as much here because.
Yeah, shorter history.
Yeah.
But something I'm thinking about, like in some areas you wouldn't see this as much because there is a much more populated area, perhaps London. But let's go outside of that and you look at some pubs in some smaller communities, and let's imagine those pubs have been around for hundreds of years. And, somebody whose family has lived in that community, that area for for generations, they knew their grandparents went to that pub, their great-grandparents, their great-great-great.
Very close-knit community thing. And it almost reminds me of, like, church. A little bit. Like, that whole community. Obviously, we don't have first-hand knowledge of this, but just from what we've learned
what it looks
here,
like, yeah.
That's what I could see that, like, especially in smaller villages and towns.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'm sure there's, like, a lot of, like, history and pictures on walls and, like...
And don't they have, like, clubs? Aren't there, like, clubs as part of a pub? Because...
Yeah, I think there are.
Remember there was, like... What did we watch?
I don't remember. But
it was, like, it was a festival. It was the November thing.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Guy Fawkes night.
Okay.
We watched something about that.
Oh, you're talking about where they're running with the barrels and stuff?
Yeah, they were different, like, pub.
Yeah, they were different
clubs
pubs.
Or whatever they're
I can't remember what that's called, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So.
But guys, this is interesting. Let us know in the comments what we should check out next in terms of pubs. I'm really interested in learning more about this kind of thing in the pub culture and whatnot, because it is something that I personally don't really have any experience with. Beyond, basically growing up for a period of time with my dad owning what we called a bar. And of course I was within that because I worked there and whatnot. But... and into my teen years later on and into my 20s, I spent quite a bit of time at bars. But after I'd say my late 20s, I really haven't spent that much time in bars.
I've probably, in my whole life, only been in probably like 5 bars.
Really? Wow. I had my local bars I spent a lot of time in, and I wouldn't call where I spent most of my time pubs, but, you still have the same vibe. You see some of the same people and over again, the workers get to know you, and it's just this place that you go and hang out and meet people and have fun and relax and all that. But it's something I don't think I've experienced on the level of what the pub culture is in the UK and Ireland. I know Ireland is big on the pub culture as well. And I really look forward to checking out some of those guys, but let us know in the comments what we should check out next in terms of this. If you have any videos to recommend or topics we should look up about pubs and that type of thing, let us know. But guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.